Hello guys and girls, Andy Rafael from etechnics.com here, and you have to excuse if I look an absolute mess. It's Sunday. In my eyes that's lazy day. I don't know how many more of you out there think that Sundays aren't really for working, but here at etechnics we're always constantly working, trying to bring you the latest news, reviews and that kind of thing. So Sundays, yeah, it's a lazy day in a way, but I'm still working, so yeah, I can't really be bothered to make myself look all professional and everything, so you have to excuse me for that. Last week has been very hectic with Z68 and the sort of release of it, but it was a good one. Well, I say it was a good one. It was a good one for us, being at the forefront of the new technology coming out, but Z68 sales apparently haven't been that fantastic. But moving on anyway. Today we're going to be talking about CPU coolers, Noctua CPU coolers, more specifically the NH-C14. If you've ever heard of Noctua, which I'm sure a lot of you have, you'll realise that they are one of the greatest when it comes to cooling and things like that. When it comes to etechnics, we've reviewed a couple of Noctua products, fans and thermal compound, mainly the NTH1 thermal compound, which we thought was absolutely amazing for what it was. So it sort of gave us the belief that all Noctua products were going to step up to the mark and be fantastic. And if you've ever heard of the NH-C14, then you'll know straight away that from what other review sites have said about it, that it is a really great cooler. So we're going to have a look at one today in this video. We're also going to be publishing the written review where you can see all the benchmarks and all of the results that we actually got from it in regards to how good the cooling is. We'll be testing it in 3 different modes, which we will talk about because it actually explains it on the box, the 3 different variations that you can actually have with this cooler, and the way that it can work. So I think the best thing that we can really do is go straight in, have a look at the box, get it unboxed, and sort of take it from there. You can see exactly what this cooler is about, and then we can show you exactly what it looks like once it's actually installed onto a motherboard, because I'll warn you now, if the box is anything to go by, the cooler is going to be absolutely huge. So I'm going to take you off the tripod and have a little look at the box, have a look at the cooler, and then we can have a look exactly what it looks like and even what it sounds like when it's actually installed. And we're going to install it on a Z68 motherboard, so you can get an idea on the clearance as well, and take it from there. So let's take you off the tripod. Righto, so Noctua NH-C14. So this is the box. Nice and simple really, it's just a sort of cubed white box. But there's quite a lot of information on there. So looking at the top to start with, we can see that it's got this sort of blue bar down here, and it lists the heatsink specifications just here, and also the NF-P14 fan specifications, because obviously it's sort of 2 products in one. It's the heatsink as well as the fans. So all the specifications on the RPM, the airflow, what the acoustic noise is like, which straight away we can see is very low, the input power, and how long it's expected to last. One thing you can actually see is this sort of diagram, sort of a stencil drawing really of what the actual cooler looks like, which is quite a nice little touch instead of just having a white box. You can see if we move to the front that it's the NH-C14, as we can see up there, Noctua logo over here, and more of these sort of stencil drawings. And then we get a first view of what the actual cooler looks like here, and next to it, it just tells us some of the main features. So it's a C-type top flow design, and you can see exactly what it will actually look like there. Dual fan configuration, so you can have 1 fan or 2 fans, it's entirely up to you. You've got the low profile mode, high clearance mode, and secure firm 2 mounting system, and then obviously you can find more details at Noctua's website. So we're just going to have a look at the sides of the box. This is, as I said, there's 3 sort of variations as to how you can have this installed. So we've got the dual fan mode, where you'd have a fan on top and a fan below. You've got the high clearance mode, where you just have one there, just in case you have got clearance issues with your motherboard. And then we've got the low profile mode, which is where you have just one fan underneath. So 3 different ways of having it really. So there's a view of the top, there's the bottom, and then you've got some sort of schematic drawings as well there. Once again, more stencil art on here. You can see on the back, if I turn this huge box over, 6 different languages that just explain about the NH-C14. So Noctua actually, because of where they're based, they do try to stay sort of global in what they do. So this is one of the main reasons why obviously they list it in various different languages to appeal to the mass market worldwide. Turning the box around again, this time we get exactly the same information but in English. So it's just basically a little blurb about the NH-C14, what it is, what it does, what's so great about it and so forth. Then we've got some of the main features as well, so the C-type top flow design, the dual NF-P14 flex fans or FLX fans, the mounting system that comes with it, and you can see all the sort of socket, different sockets that it's actually supported for. We've got the high clearance mode once again, low profile mode, and it comes with the NT-H1, which we've actually done a review on, so head over to etechnics.com to find out how that performs. But really great thermal paste, it's good that it comes with it, so really happy about that. So other than that, that is pretty much the sort of outside of the box in a nutshell. So if we start to take this off, we get sort of various different boxes. So this is the first box. Now I'm going to try and open this with one hand, which if you've seen any of my sort of latest videos, then you will realise it's not the easiest task. So straight away we can see there's quite a lot. Firstly, we get a sort of Allen key shaped screwdriver which has got a Phillips head on it. So we'll show you exactly how that works later on. We get this bracket, which is a support bracket, which is optional whether you put that on there or not. And then all these bags are sort of labelled up. So this is the Intel set, so we can see that we've got the back plate, the various mounting systems and brackets. We get the AMD set, once again various brackets and various different mounting fixtures and fittings. The NH-C14 common parts, so we can see the NT-H1 thermal paste in there, and pads. We can see the fan connectors, because there's 2 fans obviously you can connect it so it goes into one header. We get information on the support bar and how it actually sort of goes together, and the 2 screws for putting that support bar on. And then we get the manual, which if we open this up, this is quite a nice little touch that you've basically got it split into 2 sections. So you've got your Intel instructions and your AMD instructions, so you don't have to sort of flick through and try and find your various one from, you know, in one manual. You can just go, right, I've got an Intel system, I'm going to have a read of that one, or I've got an AMD system, I'm going to have a little read of that one. So quite a nice little booklet there, and tells you if you need any support, who you can email, who you can contact, and so forth. So very nice sort of package that you get there. The next part is obviously the CPU cooler itself, so we can take this bit of cardboard protection off, and then we can take this box out. Now all that's in there left is another sort of bit of cardboard packaging and another bit down there, so it's nicely packaged really. And then this is the main box itself, which is a bit of a weird one, because you open up this and you can open up that bit and that bit and that bit and that bit. It's sort of like a neck diagram all in one, but once it's opened up it reveals this absolute beast. So I'm going to clear all this mess up, all this cardboard boxing, and then we can have a look at the cooler itself, which straight away you can see is absolutely massive. So stay tuned and we'll have a little look at this. Okay, so the first thing I actually want to show you about this CPU cooler is the different configurations. After we've done that, we'll have an actual proper look around it and see what the main features are. So at the moment, what I've actually done is removed the bottom fan. So you can see there's only one fan on here at the moment, the other one's just sitting here. Now this is basically your top profile location. So you've got your fan on top, and this is going to be perfect for users who have maybe got clearance issues underneath. So if we actually look down underneath, once that's sitting on your motherboard, you may have some problems just here with the height of memory, especially if you're using something like the Kingston HyperX T1s or some of the Corsair Dominator GTs, something like that. You may just have that issue with clearance with the memory. So this is going to be perfect that you can take the bottom fan off and just leave the top one on. Obviously, if you've got issues with your case, then you're going to have issues the other side, sort of, you know, on the top of the cooler. Now, because of that, you may want to remove this and leave the fan on the bottom. So it's just a matter of taking this off and pulling it off like so. And then obviously you can connect the fan onto the bottom. Now that's going to be perfect for, say, HTPC users who just have that, you know, shallow case and they're not going to be able to quite get a fan in there, or if they are, it's actually going to restrict things more than ever. Now obviously there are the users who will require both of them, and we'll show you exactly what it looks like with the fan on top and the fan on bottom. But there are also other users who may just want to use it like this as a passive heatsink design. Now, I've got to be honest, if you are going to be using it for a passive heatsink design, then you are going to sort of want to be using it with a processor that has quite a low TDP or thermal design power, due to if this had a CPU underneath it like a Phenom 2X6 1100T, then you're going to be generating quite a lot of heat, especially if there's no fans to sort of assist in the cooling. So advisably, we wouldn't really, you know, recommend that. But obviously if you've got a low powered i3 or something like that, then obviously in passive mode it may be absolutely fine, but it is all going to depend on the rest of your cooling that you've got in your case as to whether it can supply sufficient airflow sort of coming towards the cooler itself. But honestly, if you are going to be using a processor like that, this may be a little bit overkill due to the price of it. And then you're going to be sitting there with obviously two fans that are going to be redundant, unless you're going to use them for case fans. So there's a lot of various different choices you can make with this cooler. Obviously you can use these for case fans because of their size, all depends on your case. You can then use this passively, or you can connect one of the fans onto the top or one onto the bottom, or one on top and on bottom, which is how it actually was intended to be used straight out of the box. Now before I actually connect the fans back on, I just want to sort of have a little walk around the actual heatsink itself. So we can see straight away that it has tons and tons of various different fins on there, and you can see the heat pipes that actually go all the way through. And then the heat pipes actually come out this end where you can see it's got the Noctua branding on there. So there's 3 heat pipes on each side, and then if we turn the cooler around, you can actually see the heat pipes coming through the middle and then obviously out the back. And as I said, there are 3 on each side. We've got the bracket in the middle which holds sort of the top part and the bottom part together, which actually goes down into the plate at the bottom. Now you can see the screw points as to where it would actually screw down onto your various different socket, and we can see that it has this heatsink design on top as well, and where the heat pipes finish here. Now turning this over, you can see that it actually comes with a plastic protective cap during transit, but we can take that off and you can see the plate itself. Now the heatsink, the heat pipes don't actually connect directly to the plate, they do sort of follow underneath, but it's still going to supply sufficient cooling. You have seen various different heatsink designs where you can actually see the heat pipes are level with the contact plate. You can see the mounting screws where this comes down, and we actually spoke earlier about a support bracket, and a support bracket can actually be attached to here as well, so we will show you that on the installation. As you can see, it's overall quite a lot of room to sort of, you know, adjust this to how you want, and it has got an Allen key bolt on there, so if you wanted you can actually take this plate out of there, and there's a lot of various different combinations with this cooler as to what you can do with it. But overall the design is really, really nice on this sort of C design as they brand it on their box, and it should be perfect for most users, whether you're just using it on a mainstream PC or in our case the more extreme PCs with overclocked processors. Okay, so now we've got both fans connected, so you can see that the design of it looks absolutely huge again. One thing I do want to sort of comment on is if we look in here we can see that it's one of the NF-P14 fans, which, if you may remember, we actually did a full written review on these fans, and whilst they weren't the greatest in comparison to some of the other ones that we used, but there was a reason why, these actually run at a lower RPM rating compared to the ones that we used in comparison. So obviously they're not going to perform as well, but noise wise they were absolutely fantastic. And the fact that you get all of these various different fan connectors, which you've got your low noise as well as your ultra low noise ones, you can just plug these in and it will dumb the noise down to an astonishing 13 decibels for the low noise and 10 decibels for the ultra low noise. Then you've obviously also got the Y splitter cable, which you can plug both of your fan connectors into and plug it into one header on your motherboard. Now, having a quick look at the fan connectors, we can see that they are 3-pin and they have got braiding on there as well, which goes pretty much all the way to the end. And then as we trace it back down, we can see where it actually ties in and connects up to the fan. So really, really great designs on the cable there, and nicely insulated as well. So looking back at the cooler, I'm just going to turn it over so you can have a look at how big the cooler itself actually is. So I'm going to step back a little bit, and there it is in all its glory with both fans connected. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to walk away and I'm going to grab my phone. Now a lot of you users out there on YouTube and watching this on eTechnics, I'm sure are very gadgety, so you'll know exactly how big an iPhone 4 is. So here's my iPhone 4 in its lovely case, and just putting that on top, you can see it's quite big. The iPhone 4 really does get swamped up by this. And just sort of putting it next to it, you can see exactly how tall the cooler is as well. So you can see straight away the thing is absolutely flipping huge. So as I said, it's got the Noctua branding on here. The fans sort of fit on really, really nicely, and luckily we've got a test bench, which you can see just over here. It's got a Crosshair 4 formula on it at the moment, but we will be swapping that over for a different board. And the different board that we will be swapping it over with is the Z68 UD5, which is one of the new Intel Z68 boards. As you can see, we've actually got a V8 on there at the moment, Cooler Master V8, and even that's quite big. If we were to put the C14 just next to it, you can see that yeah, the V8 is taller, but no way in comparison to the sheer sort of size of the sides of the C14. The thing is absolutely huge. So what we're actually going to do now that you've seen this, you've seen the funky design that Noctua keep on their fans with the sort of brown and beigey cream colour. You've seen exactly what the heat pipes and the contact is like, how many fins there are, and how the fans actually connect in. And it's oh so simple to just pull up like that and take this one off if we don't need it. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to show you how this fits onto the motherboard and how much clearance we've actually got with some normal memory, which is just this Kingston DDR3 2133 memory. We're going to place the cooler on there and see how much clearance we've got in regards to where our phases are and the MOSFETs and the whole cooling design, and also the memory slots and the memory that's in there. You'll be able to see and hopefully gauge an idea as to whether this cooler will fit with both fans connected. You can hear how noisy it is as well, and then we'll also tell you about the sort of temperatures that we're able to get out of this, and hopefully we'll be able to sort of show various different combinations of whether we're using a single fan in high profile, low profile, or using both the fans together, and also connecting up these fan connectors for the low noise and the ultra low noise. And you can see how versatile this cooler really is. So we're going to go get it installed onto our UD5 Z68 motherboard, and we'll be back in a minute where you can hear this thing. Well, hopefully you won't be able to hear it, but at least see it in action. Before we go on to the testing, I just want to sort of go through the fan and how noisy it is. Hopefully you may be able to pick up a little bit of noise if we get close to the fan, but it shouldn't be so noisy that, because I'll be honest, it's not noisy here at all. It's very, very quiet. So hopefully if I put the camcorder nearer, you might be able to hear sort of a slight murmur, but nothing that would make you think, you know, this is a loud fan, because it's really not. So if we just position this here, hopefully you might have heard an ever so slight murmur, but other than that, both fans are fairly quiet. So testing time. As you can see, we've got it all installed with both fans on. So we've got the top fan as well as the fan below. You can see we've got the Kingston HyperX Genesis 2133 MHz memory, some fantastic memory, and it's all on a Gigabyte Z68 UD5, so one of the latest boards on the market, and we're just using a reference Radeon 6850 for this test. So what we're going to do is just check out the temperatures of the C14 cooler. You can see the connection that we've actually got is plugging both of the fans into the Y splitter, which then just goes onto the CPU fan header. And coming over to here, once the autofocus sorts itself out, you can see we've got Prime open, but not doing anything as of yet. And you can see exactly what we're running here, which is a Core i5 2500K. At the moment we're just running it at stock speed, 3.4 GHz. And then down here we've got core temp. And straight away you can see, especially when you look at the low results, 26, 32, 32, 31, all very quite low, to be honest. So we can see over here the true results, and looks quite good, to be honest. And what we're actually going to do now is I'm going to start Prime on a torture test, and we're going to do it on large FFTs to give the maximum heat, power consumption and some RAM tested, and see what happens. So coming back over to here, obviously the fans are still going to carry on spinning as they were, but the temperatures are going to rise up. So as this processor is an i5, it's got 4 cores, 4 threads, as we can see there. And Prime is doing its business on all 4 of those cores at the moment. And you can see that the temperatures are still relatively low. Generally with stock cooling you'd expect these results to be around sort of 70, 75 degrees. I mean, it's a bit different and a bit difficult for us to explain, because obviously we're sitting here with this sitting in a test bench, so it is a little bit unfair, but we're comparing it to itself, so at least we've got some comparison. But if you're sort of thinking, wow, you know, this is fantastic, if you do decide to put this in a case, obviously your results are going to vary if you use sort of the exact setup that we've got. So the temperatures seem to be balancing out a little bit now. We're over to test 2 now on Prime, and you can see that the results are fairly good, to be honest. Sort of under 50 degrees. It keeps sort of peaking at 51, as you can see. The high on 2 of the cores has gone up to 51, but they are remaining sort of around 49, 50, with core 0 at 45 degrees. And this is really pushing the processor to its limits. So what we're actually going to do now is we're going to remove one of the fans and see what it's like in low profile mode, on idle and on load, and then we're going to do the same but on the sort of high profile mode. So we'll be back in a minute once we've tinkered around, and we'll see what the temperatures are like then. Okay, boys and girls, so we've been tinkering, and well, all we've really done is taken the Y splitter off and connected one fan into the header where the Y splitter was into. But yeah, we've been tinkering, and as you can see, the top fan, there was no real need for us to just take it off. I mean, we could have, but it's not going to make mass amounts of difference. It's not like you're even really going to see 1 degree or 2 degrees of a drop or an increase. So the bottom fan, as you can see, is still spinning ever so nicely in there, but the top one is disconnected. So now we can have a look at the sort of temperatures. So we've now got Prime stopped and still running at the stock speed here, and taking a look at core temp, we can see that the results really have only gone up sort of a couple of degrees. Nothing spectacular, probably about 4 degrees difference when you look at it, but still it is noticeable. And I know this is going to sound really weird, but it sounds louder than it did with both fans. Just a personal thing, but once again I'll bring you in and you can listen And obviously you can now be the judge as to whether that is louder or quieter. But what we're now going to do is switch over, so we're going to disconnect the bottom fan and we're going to reconnect the top fan so you can see what sort of results we get from that. But first we're going to run a bit of prime on here and you can see what the load results are like. So ever so quickly now, so we don't make the whole testing process a complete drag. As you can see, temperatures still within a sort of comfortable limit. You can actually see that the highest that we got on the two fans was actually 54 and 48 on the top, and as you can see here, they're actually slightly lower. So not only does it sound noisier to me, it actually performs better on load with just the bottom fan. Work that one out. I mean, it could be all to do with using the Y splitter will obviously split the power going to the two fans, so that could obviously be why we are getting various different results here, which I'm guessing it is. So the best bet really of what we can learn from this is, if you are going to be using both fans, connect one in here and connect one over here. That way you'll get the best results, but it will be a little bit noisier, as you can hear. So what we're going to do now is swap it all around. So we've got the top one on and the bottom one off, and see what sort of results we get then. Okay, so final test really. The bottom fan is now off, at least I hope it is, sticking my hand in there. Top one is on and it's blowing out. You can feel sort of the air. It's blowing out quite a lot really. So same sort of configuration really, apart from we've just sort of turned it over. And looking now at the idle results, we can see that they're sort of back to, like, really they're sort of back to normal. So we're getting some really good results, whether you're using one fan on top, one fan on bottom, or if you prefer just the extra quietness because the fans are sort of distributed together, then obviously you can use the included Y splitter cable. But obviously there are also other cables as well, the ultra low noise and the low noise connectors, which you can use. But to be honest, the various different connections that we could show you today, we'd be here forever. We could do both fans with the Y splitter, we could do one fan going connected on its own, another fan connected on its own, one using the ultra low connector, one using the low connector, two using the ultra low, and it could just go on for absolute forever. So your best bet really is just make out of it what you will, but you can see here the idle results are very similar, so there's not much point us doing the load test because they're going to be very, very similar once again. So either way, we're really happy with the results. You can see that we didn't really peak above 32 on the on idle, and we didn't peak above 55 on load. And to be honest, I'm extremely happy with that, especially when you compare it to stock cooling and things like that. That, you know, you normally expect sort of 75 degrees, but this is absolutely fantastic. We will be doing some overclock results, but to be honest, we're not going to include it in this video because once again there's going to be so many variations to it. But we will put it into our written review as to how it performed on an overclock basis at 5 GHz. So we'll be running the Core i5 2500K at 5 GHz, pumping loads more volts through it. Ignore the voltage on here, this CPU Z, it is wrong. And see exactly how the temperatures look then, and we will be priming it as well to see how that goes. Putting some sort of, you know, massive load onto it. So there you go. So there isn't really a lot I can say to sum this up. I think that really it does speak for itself. The NH-C14 has actually taught me a little something today. Just when you think that you have a great CPU cooler, think again. I mean, we've used various different CPU coolers on our test bench, on our main rig, on our AMD test rig, and I've always thought, oh, you know, they're fine, they're good coolers, they're sufficient, they're fairly quiet, and you know, they push a nice amount of air. But it's only really when you get a product like this, like the NH-C14, that really makes you reevaluate everything that you ever thought about a product of that nature. So at one point, yeah, I thought CPU coolers were a good thing when they're reasonably quiet, and also, you know, when you're getting okayish sort of temperature and performance results. But a C14 has really pushed the boundaries of it all. Just having it on and showing you guys exactly what it sounds like, I could actually hear my normal main rig over there more than the test rig. So, and I mean that's over the other side of the room, so it really did sort of show. And I was right next to that, as you saw in the video, as we sort of got in closer to the CPU cooler. I still really couldn't hear it over what I could hear on the main test rig, and that really goes to show that what I'm using on the main rig is absolutely crap, and this is something really, really special. The temperatures that we got from it, I'm really quite astounded by. I didn't think they'd be quite as low as they were, especially when we looked at the various configurations of having just the top mount fan, the low profile version, and also having the both together. It just really sort of surpassed all my expectations of what this was going to be like. It's been on the market for a little while now, and I honestly do feel quite lucky that we've got a chance to test it and sort of see exactly how it performs, and whether it was just going to be marketing hype or whether it was really going to live up to what it was expected to be. And I can safely say that, well, there's a lot of companies out there who do give it the whole sort of spiel when it comes to the marketing, the sales, it does this, it does that, and then we finally get to it and it's either a product that looks cheap and nasty and breaks and it's not really durable, the build quality is terrible, or it just doesn't live up to its claims of being, as good as it says it is. But this really does live up to absolutely everything that it says. I'm just astounded, really, that's all I can say. The installation I found was relatively easy. We're using an Intel test rig, but I will be transferring this cooler over to the Crosshair 4 formula to sort of see how easy the installation is on AMD, but I can't see it being any harder than the Intel based system. And the clearance was no problem at all with the memory. Obviously we are using just sort of normal HyperX Genesis memory, but I can't see there being a massive amount of problem. There's still probably just under an inch from the memory we're using and the bottom fan. So even with some of the sort of HyperX T1 series or some of the Corsair Dominator GT, I don't think there's going to be too much of a problem. I hope at least. But obviously if there is, there are other coolers that Noctua do on the market, which we will be looking at for in the near future. Behind me I've actually got one of the other Noctua coolers. I'm not going to tell you which one, but I'm sure you can all guess. It's as big as this, just a slightly different design. So I'll leave you guessing with that one, and maybe you could even leave a comment just below this video as to what you think that may be, and that should be really, really interesting to see what sort of results we get from that. Because obviously they are two different markets, having the sort of C-type design as well as just the normal block design. So I'll leave that to your imagination. But I definitely want to know what you guys thought of the noise, if you heard anything in that whole video. I'm not going to know until obviously I listen to the video back, and we all have different ears, all have different sensitivity, and it's hard to pick it up on a camcorder, but you should be able to, or hopefully not, gauge that there was any noise output from there. It was interesting to see the various different combinations that you can have, not just with the fan design, but with the way that the fan is connected through the low noise level as well as the ultra low noise level fan connectors, and that was something that I was really, really keen to try out as soon as I heard about this CPU cooler having that, because 10 decibels is absolutely ridiculously low. So yeah, I was really, really pleased with the way that that performed, as well as even just the normal low. Obviously you're getting a little bit more airflow in regards to the RPMs being hiked up a little bit, but still only sort of 13 decibels. That's still absolutely phenomenal. That's really, really low, and overall the build quality of the whole unit is just fantastic. It doesn't feel flimsy, and that's something that we've grown to love with regards to Noctua when we've looked at their fans in the past, including the fans that this actually incorporates, because we did a review on that. The overall build quality is just second to none, and I think Noctua have really done a good job here. When you look at the sort of pricing of this, I'm not going to sort of tell you how much it is, because there's no point, because there's, you could be watching this in Australia, America, England, the whole United Kingdom, and the price is going to vary from country to country. So look at the price of this, and you can really weigh up whether you think the cooler is actually worth the money that it would cost in your country. But for us in the UK, I'd definitely consider going out and buying this. If you've got the money to go out and buy a CPU cooler, if you're only looking at sort of, you know, a basic sort of £20 cooler, but you're hoping to do some mass overclocking, save your money. That's all I can advise you. Don't go for the cheap and nasty. Save your money and get something extreme like this. If you're not overclocking, obviously it's still going to be fantastic because it's going to give you a quiet system. But whether it's completely needed is entirely up to you and your system. I mean, we use this on a Z68 board, which I can quite comfortably get an i7 2600K or i5 2500K up to 5 GHz on a normal cooler. I could even get it on stock cooling, but the extra voltage really does sort of hinder its performance in regards to the temperature and the heat output. Whereas this, you know, it battles that, and we can sort of add a little bit extra volts on and not really worry about the temperature and not have to worry that the fan's going to hike up in RPMs and really give us a headache like we heard on the main rig that I've got over there. So overall, I've got to admit, I'm absolutely astounded, flabbergasted, whatever you want to call it, by this. The NH-C14 from Noctua, absolutely brilliant design, absolutely brilliant build quality, the performance, fantastic, and also the noise level. That's all I can really say about it. I can't really say any more about this than it already says for itself. When you saw the video a few minutes ago, probably 10 minutes ago because I'm rambling now, of it in action, that is what really sells a product like this. They could do all the marketing in the world, but if you can see one or hear one or just get the general feeling of what it's about firsthand, which is why we do these videos, obviously, to show you what they are like firsthand, and which will hopefully tempt you in your buying decisions as to whether you're going to buy a product or not buy it. But hopefully that gave you the idea of whether this is right for you and whether it's worth parting with your hard-earned cash for a product like the NH-C14. That's all I've really got to say for this for now. Until next time, as said, we will be doing a video as well as a written review on another Noctua cooler, but for now check out the description where you can actually read up on the full written review on this on etechnics.com. And you can see the benchmarks in graph form and charts, and you can see exactly how it compares in the various combinations that we actually used on the C14. Until next time, I'd say go and check out etechnics.com. We're running some fantastic competitions as always new news and reviews going up there. We don't do videos for every single product, we only do it for the things that we really think that you'll like, and there's no point us reviewing a mouse mat in video form sometimes because some products are very similar. This is very unique, and that's why we've done a video on it. So check out etechnics.com because there may be something on there that you're expecting us to do on YouTube, but we haven't quite done it, and we always appreciate your comments. So be sure to subscribe to etechnics on YouTube. Be sure to comment below this video, and also tell us what you think, like it, go onto our website, sign up to the forums, and tell us what you think on there as well. Until next time, boys and girls, see you later.